Why do you think the character Thor resonates so much with audiences around the world?
Well, I am Thor, God of Thunder. Welcome to the Bomb Squad podcast. I am your host and master of ceremony, Thor Odinson, and with me I have...
Hello, I'm Austin Zwiebelman.
And we have a very special guest.
I'm Luke.
Hey! Yeah, we finally got him on. Luke is a old college buddy of mine. Luke, explain yourself.
So my name is Luke Hart. I go to college for anthrozoology. I'm currently graduating this year. So that means I have experience in the behavior or the relationship between humans and animals. So I work with animals. My goal is conservation and rescue, and your boy's a gamer.
You're the right man to have that because the movie we're talking about today has a lot of goats.
It's got two.
Got two goats. Because we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder, the fourth Thor movie, making it the first MCU character to have 4 solo movies, the second one directed by Taika Waititi, and the third one to get less than 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we're in for a treat today, fellas. But before we get into the new movie, I kind of just want to know, what are your guys' thoughts on Thor in the MCU up to this point, so before this movie, and what expectations you kind of had going into this movie? Austin, I'm going to want to start with you.
Okay, so back when the MCU started out, Thor was nothing but a joke to me. All right, I knew the character Thor from a YouTube poop about somebody masturbating onto a mechanical sea serpent. I waited 4 years to watch Thor 1, and I only ever even decided to do so at the time because I was on a week-long bender. I had to be drunk to watch Thor 1 for the first time.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
But man, I'm glad I did, because Thor movies have been consistently kind of watchable. I even like Dark World more than most people do. Watching Thor and Loki hash things out may be one of my favorite MCU pastimes.
You listen well, brother.
I'm listening.
And I never would have expected that the one all-powerful god in the original Avengers team would be the person fated to lose everything and everyone he cares about over the course of several movies. Like, what a trip. We get this goofy-ass himbo enduring real hardships that have weight. Dramatic gravitas. It's like he's the one Marvel character that secretly lives in a Lars von Trier film. Like, have you ever watched your whole realm of existence explode? Have you ever felt like it's your fault half the universe got murdered?
Yeah, last Thursday.
Thor has. And I was so excited to see the tonal tightrope they're gonna walk after Endgame, deciding where to go now that Thor is a broken down alcoholic.
How's Guardians of the Galaxy back together again? Oh, where to first?
We should fight one another for the honor of leadership.
Sounds fair.
I got some blasters unless you guys want to use knives.
Oh, yes, please. Use knives.
There shall be no knifing one another. Everybody knows who's in charge.
My expectations for this were extremely high because I love Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi has made nothing but bangers up to this point, and Thor has the richest backstory of any Marvel character as of like now who's alive. I was ready to love and thunder this movie. Back to you, Tanner.
This guy loved and Thunder the movie.
You can't keep getting away with it!
So, Luke, what do you think of Thor's journey in the MCU up until this point, and what kind of expectations you had into this one?
So as a comic book lover, I've never really been too much into Thor, just because it just didn't vibe with me. Spider-Man, Moon Knight, Black Panther type of lad. And so what I saw in the first movie, I was like, this is just some Norse idiot. And then, like Austin was saying, throughout this, I guess, space epic of what that is, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's done nothing but evolve. You know, it's not like the one death changes him. Like, for instance, like Peter Parker when he loses Aunt May, That's like his breaking point. This man just goes through nothing but loss constantly. He's just slowly breaking down into this shell of a man that Thor Love and Thunder kind of breaks the mold on that to kind of get him going further. And like, cause he's been kind of going down from like emotionally, but power has been going up. So now it's going to go up, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do with that.
You have to remember, before his first movie, Thor is like 1,500 years old. So in the grand scheme of his life, comparing his life to ours, he's having just the worst month of his life. Just the absolute worst month of his life. Father dies, mother dies, brother dies, best friend dies, half of everyone dies because of him. Just having a horrible month.
What will you do?
I'm not sure. For the first time in 1,000 years, I have no path. I do have a ride, though.
Austin, you talked about going through a bender. Quite frankly, it makes sense that Thor went through a bender in Endgame comparatively. Because, goddamn, just the worst month. Austin, if you lost both your parents, your sibling, and you were responsible for trillions of people dying, do you think you would have gone into an alcoholic binge?
Depends which mall I was at when it happened.
You're at the Mall of America.
Mall of America!
So for me, I pretty much agree with what you guys have put forward. Thor was a okay character when he first entered the MCU, more of a straightforward adaptation of his comic counterpart, which I was not too familiar with. The only Thor comic I really read as a kid was the Frog one. That's what I have in terms of prior Thor experience. And then when Ragnarok came along, it kind of turned him into more of a himbo type character. I thought it worked a lot better. Not that he was super bad before. I think every MCU movie is at least watchable, and the prior Thor movies are no exception. But Ragnarok, the way Taika Waititi came in and reinvented him to be kind of a dumbass, just straight up kind of a dumbass, I think worked a lot better because it plays, I think, to Hemsworth's strengths as an actor.
I choose to run toward my problems and not away from them.
That's what
he may be an intelligent guy in real life, but damn, he plays stupid so well. It's like Taika Waititi saw the 2016 Ghostbusters movie and thought, Hemsworth in this movie, I can work with that.
But you know what I say? Let's jump ahead. Kevin dabbles in web design. There we go.
Okay, so, what do you think of that?
Yeah, you do see how this might make us look bad, right?
Well, what about this one?
In terms of expectations going into this one, I was reasonably excited as I am for any MCU movie, but it was definitely the one, let me put it this way, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Doctor Strange. To me, the MCU has released 4 straight 5-star bangers for me, and I know I have the Marvel bias, but for me, it's 4 straight absolute certified bangers with a lot of crazy, fun, unique stuff that makes every movie worthwhile.
All right, Pizza Papa, relax. She's just a kid.
Relax
She was
yourself
hungry.
there, Dr. Strange. Why don't you take some mustard, huh?
Going into this one, though, I had some reservations. I hadn't really heard any leaks, which I've heard for a lot of the previous Marvel movies. There was one big one I got like 3 days before I watched it. Me, but it is what it is. I kind of expected it anyway. So I came in excited, but for some reason my expectations were tempered. The vibes weren't right. It is completely unexplainable. And this is before the reviews even came out. One of the reviews came out, and these are the worst reviews a Marvel movie has gotten since Eternals. But before that, since Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel did better. Probably The Dark World. It's the worst review since The Dark World, other than Eternals.
I've got this completely under control.
Is that why everything's on fire?
So I definitely went in with more tempered expectations. Now that we're going to get into our thoughts on the movie overall, I actually want to give Luke a brief soapbox here. Luke, when you saw it the first time, you were seeing it with me, which was my second time seeing it, and we had a interesting theater experience, right?
Alright. So here, the movie's playing. I don't know what part we're at.
We're right after the kids get kidnapped, the first time it happened.
And the screen just goes jet black. And I'm like, oh, this has got to be like a cut or something. And then the sound keeps going and nothing has happened. And, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Tanner and everyone's freaking out. And I'm like, can they pause it? And Tanner's like, no, you can't pause it. I'm like, what the do you mean you can't?
I also immediately told you it's not supposed to be like this. I think I got up pretty quickly the first time.
Biggest pet peeve now is that why can you not pause these movies on these screens? Are they not just like a download that is just released to these theaters with a play and pause button on it?
It's a very complicated process.
Is it though?
I don't know if you can pause a digital cinema package, but you might be able to.
But not only does it happen once, it happens again. As soon as they smack dab on that small little planet, it's just black. So we're getting there, and at this point, people are like, you gotta be So I'm doing my best to be comedic relief. I say this is the exact opposite of a silent film. I said, so this is what SpongeBob meant by use your imagination. I was like, this is my favorite part. God, dude, it was awful.
My favorite part is that the first time it happened, I went out to get an usher to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And when I got to the usher, I turned around to point to the screen behind me, because it was right outside the theater, and say, hey, the picture's off. And then when I turned around to point, the picture's on. So it made me look like a liar.
I literally said turn it on and turn it back off. Like, turn it off, turn it back on again, and then the screen came on. So I was like, oh, I guess that worked.
We all got free passes out of it.
Yeah, so it was, I guess it's worth it. So if I want to see Thor again, and hopefully not have it cut out, I'll get a free pass.
I just want to know what allowed the picture to cut out but the sound to keep going. Did like some asshole? It's not like they forgot to change reels, you know? That's not a thing anymore. Imagine if it was. You unplug one hard drive and plug a new one in really quickly.
Some dude put his fat horse on the
Yeah, it was your
I was sitting down, brother.
Yeah, that's how huge it is. It was weird.
Okay, no, you're right.
All right.
Oh, no bitches.
But now we can get into the movie then. Luke, aside from that horrible part, what'd you think of the movie overall?
So I'm not like a big movie reviewer. I think movies are fun. I don't like sad movies because sad movies make me sad. They should. I don't like that. But I always like, the action, they're fun. These superhero movies, I've always liked superheroes growing up. So seeing this Thor movie is always, because Ragnarok was just so fun.
What? Get help. No. Come on, you love it. I hate it. It's great. It works every time. It's humiliating. Do you have a better plan? No. We're doing it.
Get help! Please! My brother's dying! Get help! Help him!
With the colors, the editing, and the visual effects, it really turned the classic Earth fight villain with super ship up on its head. And it was just such a colorful experience, and I feel like Love and Thunder was both colorful and colorless. Black and white, baby.
I know where you live.
Come over. It was fun. Christian Bale in that movie seemed off to me. It just felt like the God Butcher. He just seemed like that one kid in high school that growls at you. So I can't take it seriously. He's the one that's saying that he's gonna go Super Saiyan out of the dodgeball field and get smacked in the head. I didn't like it. I wish they kind of did more on Natalie Portman's end. I feel like it was just because the almighty Thor, right, I know very, very little about it besides the fact that she has cancer and then she gets to power Thor. But I just feel like they kind of didn't. I don't know what it is about Marvel and their female leads, but every time I feel like a female lead is suddenly in a power spot, they it up. That's just me. I didn't like Captain Marvel because I feel like they did her wrong in the movie. Ms. Marvel's beginning was good. Halfway I'm kind of meh on. Black Widow was why?
Most valuable resource on Earth, little girls.
Usually the only natural resource that the world has too much of. Girls.
They approached, I think, the transgender topic in a very Norse way. Oh, what is this? What are you talking about?
The Astrid thing?
Yeah,
the Astrid Axel thing. So I thought that was a transgender thing when I first watched it, but apparently that's supposed to be a joke about how immigrants will give themselves an American name when they move.
I was about to say, I didn't know the kid switched his gender. I just thought he changed his name to a name he liked better.
It would seem like a transgender thing because it's been in the news lately, but apparently it's an immigrant joke.
It made sense because, Astrid, I think of lady. Axel, I think of bro. It's just it's cool. I didn't care. The thing that I thought was funny was when his head was floating, it looked like I was watching a Disney Channel movie.
Oh, God.
Austin Rain and I can't stop talking about how bad that looked.
It looked awful. I saw it once and I was like, it was before I saw the movie and it said, this is from a $200 million budget movie. And I was like, I wonder what this is from.
$250 million budget.
So I sit in the theater. I'm like, there it is. There it is right there.
Leo. Whoa.
I thought it was fun. The visual effects are always fun. I like the shadow. I like the introduction of more gods. And I was kind of, when the Eternals were there,
the Celestials, you turned to me and you're like, oh!
I was like, those are technically the gods of the MCU.
The gods.
Yeah, like why are they with these like these guys are nothing to them.
Good booze.
Like we are to Jesus what it just done the food chain.
You bringing up Jesus remembered them when they were going through the God aisle and they're like, oh, there's the carpenter God. And I was like, is that Jesus?
I thought his dad was a carpenter. I didn't think Jesus himself was a carpenter.
I think Dad was a little bit more than a carpenter.
More
a contractor, I think.
You're saying, according to the Bible lore, I don't know. I have to rebrush up on it. I liked what they did with him and the girl, because my original thought in the movie was that Christian Bale was going to give his wish to save Natalie Portman because he turned over his new leaf, but instead he saved his daughter and had Thor take care of her. I was like, okay. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know. I thought it was a fun movie.
All right, Austin, tear into it.
I want every gun we have to fire on that man.
It's so weird. I've been watching YouTubers review this movie for the last 3 days just so I can remember some of the jokes. The jokes that I didn't like. I wanted to shit on them here, but they were so bad they got flushed out of my memory on the drive home from the theater. Majority of them. Big things. Big things are wrong with this. Loki was an essential part of the Hemsworth Thor movies. Hiddleston was the straight man. Their chemistry was a selling point for me.
You're late. You're missing an eye.
This isn't over.
Hit her with a lightning blast.
I just hit her with the biggest lightning blast in the history of lightning and did nothing.
So what do we do?
I'm not doing get help.
His replacements? 2 scrappy women that love kicking ass. They're just like Thor, except their brains aren't nerfed by the screenplay, like Thor's. 3 scrappy figures, and the movie's director hanging out with them. An obnoxious ass self-insert that tags along for the sole purpose of reminding everybody how funny a New Zealand accent sounds every 15 seconds. I think this movie's screenplay is doing some very clever, heartfelt things, though. Thor has to learn to be an inspiration to others again and prove that Christian Bale was wrong about the idea that all gods don't care if children literally die. But you know what I thought was funny? Jane got pretty fatal cancer, right? And she has a flashback to her mom, who also had cancer. And her mom is saying some shit to the effect of, never stop fighting, Jane. And effectively after that, Jane uses a magic hammer to literally fight people until that straight up causes her death. I think Jane's mom meant fight the cancer, not utilize your limited cancer-ridden body's life force to wail on shadow monsters. The soundtrack made me want to die, okay? In the last movie, they chose fun rock music, but it was cool like Led Zeppelin. Do you know how hard it is to get Led Zeppelin music in your movie sometimes? Ask Cameron Crowe. Ask the guy who made Almost Famous. It used to be hard.
No stairway.
It was legitimately impressive, but this movie's all Guns N' Roses. It's the most overplayed dad rock in existence, and even that ending reveal where Thor adopts a kid and reveals this is in fact a dad movie cannot excuse dad rock of that quality when Guardians of the Galaxy over there proves you can exercise taste. Lots of jokes felt like they needed an extra step. Tessa Thompson has a grenade, and it's gone. Korg's gay, and he reproduces by holding hands. Yeah, he does that. That's the whole joke. It feels like LOL XD random humor because there aren't enough satisfying setups and payoffs with these jokes. I don't know what made them think they could get away with Zeus being another one-note accent joke when Korg is in the entire movie. I was so excited when they almost killed Korg, you guys, but no, this movie's not here to make me happy. Everything that wasn't Christian Bale was a huge letdown, but I gotta admit, I thought it was really funny when he appeared in that cage full of kids and asked them if they liked Huey Lewis in the news. See, I know this movie's about a character who doesn't know what he wants to be, but I think the movie itself might have had an identity crisis too, and sadly, I bet money it'll probably only get worse for me on repeat viewings. Back to you, Tanner.
All right, my time to shine. Hello. Yeah, I think I'm more in between you guys. For the first half of the movie, I was convinced this was going to be the first time I disliked an MCU movie, because it was basically nothing more than a series of vaguely related SNL sketches on a decent episode of SNL from 2014, at best. Jokes that were just kind of one note but often repeated, like goat screaming. And not gonna lie, I constantly laughed at the screaming goats, but that was the only one. I don't know, goat screaming is funny. At my office, my coworker literally has a little goat figure. When you press down on it, it screams like that. So I just imagined my coworker every time, which makes things funnier. But it's one thing when it's SNL and it's fueled entirely by NBC giving them $500,000 and a lot of cocaine. This is different. They were given $250 million. They should write better jokes.
Yeah.
And then they crash into that tiny planet in the Shadow Realm. And the movie does a complete flip. It balances the drama and the humor perfectly well while also being a tearjerker at the end and being a very gripping, one of the best MCU third act climaxes stuff. I love the part where Thor gives all the kids the power of Thor. That ruled, and had a little joke in there when he said for a limited time only, but it was actually funny. It actually worked. Everything in that third act actually worked, which makes it so baffling that everything in the first half didn't, which leads to my theory. Natalie Portman said in an interview that they would change or drop plot lines because of how they improvise certain scenes. What? So I theorize, because movies often film the harder stuff first, they filmed all the third act stuff first, and it was pretty set in stone. And then they did the rest of the movie and let the actors improvise like nuts, and this leads to Peter Dinklage, Jeff Goldblum, and Lena Headey all filming scenes for the movie, and they're all getting cut. That, on top of the recent news that Marvel Studios actually mandated a 2-hour runtime, which is baffling to hear, makes me think that this became a Judd Apatow protege movie. I mean that in the worst of ways. I'm talking Paul Feig on a bad day, and they desperately tried to salvage it in the cut. I think it overall works because the second half is so much stronger, and my big issue with the first half is how aimless it feels, and upon repeat viewings, the aimlessness doesn't bother you as much, but the bad jokes will always be there. Overall, it's pretty disappointing after Thor Ragnarok. I would have expected a lot more, and I just can't believe that somehow Taika Waititi, who has been Hollywood's golden boy ever since he wanted Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, somehow he's the one that proved that maybe sometimes directors do need to be reined in, and someone should be there to tell them no.
Yeah, a virus that's giving me ass and ball cancer at the same time. Inoperable.
Now, we'll move on to some general discussion thoughts here after a brief ad break. Dink.
Toothpaste is so great for you. Eggo waffles. Ads.
Makes no sense, homie.
No sense.
What am I going to give you? A sequel.
Any general discussion thoughts anyone brings up? I have one if nobody else does.
I have been laughing since I thought of this in my kitchen. I was trying to think, how could I make some of these jokes better? And I was thinking, you know, the beginning when he says from dad bod to god bod? I would have liked it more if he was like from dad bod to I would have liked that so much more.
Oh my God.
You can't do that.
You can't get away with this monkey business.
I have a theory as to one simple thing you can do to fix this movie, because it solves two birds with one stone. Christian Bale, I think, is probably the best part of the movie. Luke, you don't seem to entirely agree. Austin, I feel like you're on my wavelength.
Yeah.
Here's my theory. Christian Bale has severely limited screen time for whatever reason. Not nearly enough. My theory is that first half of the movie, when it feels like a series of vaguely related SNL sketches, you should input some sequences of him going out, finding gods, and, you know, butchering them. I think it would allow the dramatic stakes to stay there throughout the first half, while also breaking up the monotony of the jokes. If there was more space between some of these jokes, they might have hit better. And inserting Gore doing some god butchering in the first half would, one, keep the stakes in head. It would allow it to not feel so aimless, allow the jokes to be better because there would be more space between them. You wouldn't even need to rewrite them. And three, give more of the best part of the movie more screen time. What do you guys think?
I agree with that.
Yeah, that would have been really good.
I like seeing his build-up because, you know, he just gets the sword and then he kills that one god and then he goes and fights Thor and he's like, I'm nuts. And it's like, well, how'd you get there?
Like, the idea is that they have a throwaway line that the sword decays him, but like, show us that.
Dude, they've got the sort of by the time you get to the pantheon of bastard gods, they're really hammering home the idea that these like immortal, all-powerful people generally turn into boys. But it would have been nicer to see Gore, because you know, that Judd Apatow comedy god he runs into after his daughter dies, you know, that dude's pretty callous, but it would have been nice showing us more of those callous gods on every planet. He just walks in, they're acting like huge boys, and he cuts their faces off. That would have been rad. It also would have helped, like, when Thor becomes a good person at the end, to be like, yeah, he's the good one. He's the one good god.
I am a golden god!
It also would have helped make his turn more believable, because he's kind of just like, I'm gonna wish for all the gods to die. Why shouldn't I? Love. I don't know. Why shouldn't I? Love. And then that's just enough to convince him. It's either that or make it so his secret goal from the beginning is to wish for his daughter back. He was just playing into what the Necrosword wanted, but deep down he was only gonna ever wish for that. That would have played better.
Did you guys like the monsters in this film, the shadow monsters? The effect of the shadows leaving objects and getting longer was nice, but the actual monsters that came out,
they just look like dudes.
Their forms weren't very good.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't see Their first fight in Asgard, New Asgard, was at night, and these are black monsters. I was seeing Natalie Portman's new hammer going around just, like, making sparks, and I was like, what is it hitting? I can't see
I was like, is it hitting a leg? Is it hitting a small child? What's happening here? I can't tell.
It's hitting the leg of a small child.
Oh, see, that's where I didn't think. I wasn't creative enough.
The fourth most expensive MCU movie is this movie.
What?
Only Avengers 2, 3, and 4 cost more money. This cost $50 million more than Multiverse of Madness, No Way Home, Eternals. It cost $100 million more than Shang-Chi.
Whoa.
And it looks like this. The composition work in parts is awful. Why did it cost so much? And quite frankly, these are some of the worst effects I've seen in one of these things in a while. I'm a big defender of the effects. I usually don't notice them. I noticed them here. I noticed them hard.
Axel was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
Half the time, I'm not convinced Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman are in the same room.
Dude.
That Axel scene that we're talking about with the CGI head, it'll do some cuts back and forth. And there will be moments where Natalie Portman is supposed to be in the background because she's shown to be in the background in the establishing shot. But when it comes to Hemsworth's medium shot, she's not there.
Did you guys notice they were playing scary music the second time he was meeting with Axel when Tessa Thompson was tickling his nose? They were playing spooky music, and it made me think, I was like, oh, Gore did something to those kids. They're playing creepy music, and nothing happened. The kids were fine. That was just a bizarre choice of music for that.
None of them died.
This movie has 4 editors. It feels like each editor took a crack at it, and then a second editor was allowed to, but they weren't allowed to receive more footage. They were only allowed to edit down the cut they were given. They weren't allowed to access additional material, and then they did that 2 more times.
They literally couldn't talk to each other. Yeah.
Again, I'm harping on the movie a lot. I overall liked it, but it is such a letdown from what it could be.
Like Ragnarok. It could have been like Ragnarok.
It could have been another Ragnarok, which was really, really great.
How'd you guys feel about the post-credit scenes?
I'm not gonna lie, I got pretty hyped that Ted Lasso is confirmed canon in the MCU. Brett Goldstein, who is from Ted Lasso, plays Hercules.
They got Jercules, who somehow wasn't there for the entire God scene, and then Jane is in heaven?
Valhalla. Which is when I was watching the credits, Idris Elba's name popped up, and I went, what the f*** are you talking about? He's not in this movie. And then the after credits scene happened. I'm like, oh.
Do you think there's a train to all the different afterlives? Because there's Valhalla, there's heaven, there's whatever.
When Moon Knight.
Egypt.
Yeah. Like, was there just access to all this? Like, when.
God, even the afterlife gets access to high-speed rail. If your mom is Jewish and your dad is Catholic, when you die, do you get to, like, pick?
I'm from Miami. You ever been there? It's okay, but it's like you died and woke up in Jew heaven.
Wait, did that God in the beginning who said there is no eternal reward, was he either being ignorant or did he not pay that bill? Like, did he not subscribe to that service?
You have to pay a bill to get an afterlife, depending on what religion you are.
You get different, like, tiers of platinum, gold, bronze.
And he was just telling his follower, sorry, dude, I missed that shit. I left that in the mailbox. You go nowhere.
The existence of an afterlife on top of the fact that Celestials exist is kind of weird.
I agree.
Why?
All the religions are true, except the fact that only the Celestials are actually doing anything.
Because Celestials are they're the guys.
They're the ones actually building the universe.
So they are like what, if you were to interpret God as like a physical force, like a physics thing, they are the closest thing to God in the MCU?
That's what I feel like, but then also Moon Knight and this movie confirms that these afterlives exist.
So what if there's different dimensions? Because let's say...
Oh.
Is death an interdimensional portal? Are we going into quantum suicide here territory?
And the Eternals created that universe, but what if death has them connect, like the Celestials make it so whatever, like whatever death you have according to your religion sends you to the dimension that is your paradise?
Maybe it's a quantum suicide thing. You guys know about that?
No.
Quantum suicide is a philosophical theory that anytime you die, you're just transported into another universe in which whatever event you died in, you actually lived.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. It is bad, Austin, because that means you never die. There's a short story, I think written by the guy that wrote The Martian, that basically it ends with the main character being trillions of years old, and the aliens are like, hey, can we open you up and just absolutely destroy you? Just look at your guts. And the dude's like, sure, wouldn't be the worst thing I've experienced.
Yeah, what is it? That Don Hertzfeldt movie? I think it's Such a Beautiful Day. The ending is basically just saying living forever is worse than dying, which is always a fun concept in fiction.
Time loses all meaning, and the moment comes that he knows only the positions of the stars, and sees them whether his eyes are closed or open.
I heard those black monsters might have been designed by Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi's kids. I think they drew them on the fridge in crayon, and Taika was like, yep, that's it.
Nepotism has gone too far. All right, fellas, who's ready for some trivia?
Yeah!
All right, my first piece of trivia is this. Christian Bale has, up till now, initially turned down the possibility of appearing in any more comic book or superhero films after The Dark Knight Rises, seeing the genre as uninteresting from an acting perspective, and he especially found the experience of donning the Batman costume to be miserable. He agreed to take part in this film, however, after his kids begged him to do it.
Oh, it was like a Lord of the Rings Viggo Mortensen thing.
Yeah,
he got kids?
Not as cool. Yeah, you.
You mean to tell me my dad, Norbert, has been Christian Bale this whole time and I just haven't?
Your father's Norbit from that Eddie Murphy movie?
Norbert.
Chris Hemsworth, on his 8th time playing the character of Thor, achieved his biggest physique yet, getting up to 231 pounds. His longtime trainer, Luke Hart, has said he is a phenomenal Nick. I don't know what that means.
Is that Australian for something?
I guess so.
I
could have just said a slur.
I weigh more than Thor does. I'm gonna...
Let's go for cracked!
Damn, you're huge, dude.
We're huge!
I'm a Nick, whatever that is!
Yeah!
The extent of the muscles required Hemsworth to at least eat 8 times a day during the entire duration of filming just to maintain all the muscle mass he required. But whenever they film shirtless scenes, they dehydrate themselves. So he probably had to eat a bunch of salty ass chicken and not drink any water to get those muscles.
R.I.P. whatever toilet he was using.
Yeah, at 38 years old, he got the most ripped he's been in his entire life. Totally natural, no steroids involved at all. None. This is apparently the 4th time Matt Damon has played a version of Loki, after Dogma, Thor Ragnarok, and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I forgot he played Loki in those movies,
Me too.
Which makes his inclusion as a fake Loki even funnier now.
Now, if your kids are looking at you right now like, that's not Tom Hiddleston, just tell them I was Loki in the 90s, before it was cool.
That reminds me, I think I laughed the hardest at the bit where Loki, or Matt Damon and his co-writer, walked up to Valkyrie after the disaster and they're like, should we write a play about this? that kind of killed me.
I didn't hear a no.
Cameo alert, Daryl Jacobson, played by Daley Pearson, cameos in this film. The character previously appeared in Taika Waititi's non-canon comedic shorts, Team Thor Parts 1 and 2, and Team Daryl. In the shorts, the character was a human roommate to first Thor and then later the Grandmaster. In Love and Thunder, Daryl is a tour guide in New Asgard.
Nice.
I like learning about your culture. Or what do you call this?
Toast.
Yes.
Hi.
I'm Jeff Goldblum.
You take over the blueberries for a second, Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
November Rain by Guns N' Roses is playing while Jane Foster is having nightmares about Thor's battle. And when she wakes with a start and sits upright in bed, this is an homage to the music video of November Rain, where Axel's character does the same thing at the end. The ship that Thor, Jane Foster, and Valkyrie used to go after Gore has a neon light over the cabin of the ship called Cocktails and Dreams. This is the name of the bar that Tom Cruise opens at the end of Cocktail. And finally, Korg's god, Nini Nani, remember we see his god, sits on a throne of scissors.
Yep.
This is because in the game Rock, Paper, Scissors, Rock beats Scissors.
That's so stupid, I hate it. Please.
This was a movie made by a 7-year-old.
Just a little rock, paper, scissors joke for you.
All right, that's all I got for Trivia Corner. Final thoughts, we'll start with you, Luke.
Overall, I thought the movie was fun. I think it's cute that his daughter is Love in the movie, because I guess there's that...
That's right, baby! Forgot to get that in, sorry.
I loved it, and my final thoughts on it is whatever space RV that they had at the end of the movie there, I want 8 of them in different colors. I want them so bad. It's like me with the Razor Crest from Mandalorian. I just want it. I want it so bad. I like squares. I can't help it. Squares are cool.
Yeah.
All right, Austin, final thoughts?
You know, I'm really proud of Taika Waititi for producing a bunch of stuff recently about gay people, indigenous people, vampires, gods, but he chose a really weird one to treat just like a paycheck. Like, I'm surprised he got away with this. Glad everyone got paid. Who cares? The show's not over anytime soon. Go watch it if you want to. It's an okay date movie.
You already know if you're going to or not. Like,
it's been decided.
Either you're in for the ride or you're not.
Right.
Do you want to get in a Thor Love and Thunder premiere?
Is this an offer you're making out, Luke?
Not to you.
Like I said, I'm in between these guys. I think it has a lot of great parts, mainly that second half. That first half feels like a mediocre episode of SNL from 2014. Andy Samberg would be proud. But overall, though, I think with a few tweaks, it could have been a lot better, but I don't hate what we got. But, you know what else with a few tweaks could be better, but I don't hate what we're getting?
Who?
You! Woo! Luke!
Huh?
We have the audience's attention now. Do you want to plug anything?
I'm going to plug 2 things. First is sub to Average Joe Taco or Joe Taco Gaming on youtube.net.
He is so great.
Tanner, you look like a southern mom that spits loogies that are darker than oil spills. So keep going, keep getting, brush them teeth in. Love you, buddy.
Go check out Joe Taco Gaming. That's actually Joe Bovinglow, member of the Bomb Squad, who refuses to come on the podcast because he hated us so much after Loki. If you are listening on any of the audio platforms we're on, thank you oh so very much for listening. Leave a review. It makes me happy. If you're watching on Spotify video, we cursed a lot and said a lot of sexual things that Austin will have to censor. I hope you enjoyed. How about you mosey on down over to our Patreon? That's right, we're maybe interested in introducing new reward tiers soon, but as of right now, if you give us $10 a month, hey, we'll put your name at the end of the videos. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you oh so very much for watching. Go ahead and comment below and let me know, what do you think of Thor's journey in the MCU up until now? What do you think of Thor Love and Thunder? Do you think Taika Waititi should have been held back, or do you think the movie was perfect the way it is? And finally, if you got cancer, would you throw a hammer around and die faster? Comment below and let me know. Insert the shot of me hitting myself in the nuts with the hammer from Jackass Forever. And while you are down there, go ahead and hit the like button so you know how much you like us. Hit the subscribe button so you know how much you love us. And hit the bell icon so I can gain the powers of Thor and break into your home. Tune in next week when we talk about The Simpsons. That's right, baby. We're talking about the Simpsons movie. That's right. We're going Homer and we ain't going lower. So tune in next week. It's going to be a great time. Thank you again so very much for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Farewell.
Playing the hero, that's the toughest job.
I slid my ticket across the table and I said, "Sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl."